Pain and pleasure. Pain and pleasure are the language of the heart. What moves us, what ultimately determines our actions and our behaviors, really is what we know will produce pleasure and help us avoid pain. This is part of why the idea of heaven and hell can be so powerful in influencing the choices we make day by day. If we believe that making certain choices to do good, to be in line with the dictates of Scripture, will lead us to great reward and pleasure, we're much more likely to pursue that path. In contrast, if we believe that life on our own terms will ultimately lead us to pain, we're much more likely to choose a better way. Every day, we have the opportunity to orchestrate our lives in a way that produces pleasure with the good and produces pain with the bad. Let me give you an example from my own life. For many years, I was in the habit of lying to people, telling them what I thought they wanted to hear. For instance, if I was supposed to write a letter to your insurance company about your visits with me as a doctor, if you called to check on it, I would be very tempted to say, yes, the letter's in the mail. When in reality, I would hang up the phone, type out the letter, and then put it in the mail. The only way that I found to break that bad habit of telling people what they wanted to hear was to make myself a commitment to call them and let them know I had lied. Now that was a bitter pill, but the pain of that bitter pill helped me do better, helped me tell the truth, because I didn't like those follow-up calls to admit that I had lied. Another example is my looking at improper things on the internet. I made a deal with myself and my accountability buddy that if I looked at pornography or improper images, I would, as soon as I came to my senses, call them up and make a full confession. Now, the pleasure of looking at porn was still a very real pleasure, but the knowledge that it would lead to the pain of opening up that confession and calling, even if it was in the middle of the night, gave me a good reason to say no to what otherwise would have given me that immediate sense of relief and pleasure. I'm a guy who has a tendency to run late to things, left to my own devices. And I remember very well, years ago, when one of my clients, a guy named Jim Probst, challenged me on being tardy for our 8 a.m. appointments. He said, if I can get here on time, so can you. Well, the challenge hit home, and I determined to do better. In order to help me do better, I agreed with Jim that for every minute I was late for our appointment, I would take $5 off the fee of the visit. There were a few days that I knocked down the rate based on my own tardiness. But most of the time, that decision gave me the power to get myself there in a timely way. Pain and pleasure motivate us, and we have an opportunity to create those rewards for doing well and punishments for doing badly, like we would for our children when training them to live lives of value and purpose. So today, make it your aim to give yourself a reward for doing something that's difficult but good. If you get through that pile of papers on your desk, give yourself a reward. At the same time, give yourself a negative consequence if you go down a path that you know ultimately is a takeaway from your joy and happiness rather than something that adds to it. This is what God does for us. He promises us reward for righteousness, and He promises to step away when we do evil. Give yourself the benefit of living life better today. Speak to yourself with the language of the heart, pleasure and pain.